Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarouse.
And that's Rob, and that's Brian, and that's Robin.
We're not doing
You
this.
can't trust us to do it all, yeah.
We're not allowed to introduce ourselves anymore.
I don't know.
This is an autocracy.
For those
I mean, yeah,
who are
I am the
watching
DM.
us and are like, why is it so tense? It's because we just left off with that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, no Dragonlance this week, but I thought, well, every other D&D thing I follow does like fireside chats as an episode on the podcast feed. And so I was like, well, let's just do that for our week off. So there is no Dragonlance this Saturday. Sorry about that. We are currently recovering from a very fun trip, hopefully, to Denver, where we didn't die in an avalanche.
Yeah, ideally.
And so we're just gonna take this week off. Super Bowl's tomorrow. We're gonna have a party. It's gonna be fun. But we'll be back next week with more of the show, where we will get to the cliffhanger that we left the cast on. But we're just gonna do a quick a little hang sesh, a little learn about each other.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
And we're gonna start. We offered hey, ask us questions. Always leave questions in the roleplay video. You never know when we might do another one of these episodes, so always leave questions in there because we'll answer them.
Constant vigilance.
Owen Avs asks, my question for the Dragonlance chat: how did you settle on Dragonlance? We didn't settle. We traded up. Okay.
Thanks, writers.
If you know anything about you, you know that I don't settle. I bat out of my league. That's my wife.
It was a compliment.
They're going to be running Ghost of Saltmarsh soon.
I don't trust it.
They're curious how we landed on Dragonlance in particular. There were.
Oh, it was Mad Eye Moody. That's what it was.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mad Eye
There's a
Moody
whole.
decided.
We're like recording this.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to start over?
No, you're just having a separate conversation.
Yeah.
What's going on over there?
I said constant vigilance, and we were like, oh, that's from
is that
something. And I was
from?
like, no, I know it's from something. It's on the tip of my tongue. And then I was in the
that
middle
was
of Googling
really,
it, but I actually
really
didn't
worth
finish
it. Thank
Googling it.
you.
It came to my brain without finishing Googling
It's
it.
actually really important to the question of why Dragonlance.
So why Dragonlance is the question.
I think first we looked at how long modules were.
So the original plan for this was I wanted to create a show called Module Mondays, which was going to be like 3-month module explorations, and we would have a rotating cast, and we would rotate through modules.
Yeah.
So I've never. So prior to this, hi, I'm Nerdy. I'm the DM. So I have never done a official D&D world thing before.
Neither have I.
I've only, and Clara's had neither. And so we've only ever done homebrew. And so the idea was, we'll do like official D&D content for the first time. How long could a module be, right? Like 10, 12 sessions. Because I just didn't know. I'd never cracked one open. And so I Googled, I looked up like a channel, and they were like, oh yeah, it took us like 54 sessions to get through this. And I was like, oh, that's a year. That's a year of our life. So Module Monday became, Module Monday is going to be one campaign.
Yeah.
And then I reached out, I wanted it to be in person in our basement. Because we did roleplay relay last year in person, and I was like, that was amazing. I don't want to do digitally. We're going to do some digital stuff this year. I can't talk about it too much, but we're doing a digital Star Wars show for May the 4th that I'm very excited about. It's going to be a 2-part May the 4th, May the 6th. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Everyone fingers crossed. I want to do it. I have a great cast lined up. We just, we're figuring stuff out. So I was like, I want this to be in person, though, if we're going to do it every week. Who's available on Monday nights? And everyone was kind of like, no. We live technically outside of like center Toronto.
Yeah.
And so we're
like 40 minutes from the city.
And during rush hour on Monday nights, but for the stream on Monday nights, it was just gonna be a nightmare. No one was gonna be able to make it. And so we were trying to figure out how we were gonna do it. And so we're like, well, we'll do it on Saturdays for members, and then it'll go public on Mondays. And then that didn't make sense because then like I don't know. It just felt very gatekeepy, and it was going to be a lot of work to edit it that I didn't know that I would have time for every week.
Yeah.
And so we're like, well, we'll just do it on Saturdays. We'll cut the Module Monday part because we already have the Roleplay Relay brand under Nerdy Nightly. It didn't need to be Module Monday under Roleplay Relay under.
So much alliteration.
Yeah. Can you tell I have an
Relay.
obsession with alliteration? It's a thing. And so that was kind of the road to getting to, we're going to do a year-long campaign. And when we started to look at modules, we already owned the book for Dragonlance.
You'd like picked it up just on a whim almost.
Yeah, and
it was between this one and the one with the cute little owl.
This or Humblewood.
Humblewood.
We were also thinking of doing.
Love Humblewood.
Good to know. Good to know.
Well, and the reason we didn't end up with Humblewood was because I know Dragonlance being in normal D&D, I was like, we here's what happened. It was the beginning of December, and I was like, well, I want to launch this in January because I'm an insane person who doesn't want to take the time to, build it up, produce a trailer, stuff like that. I just want to start it. And I was like, I don't know that I have time to learn everything I would need to know as the DM of Humblewood in the next 3 weeks with Christmas. But I felt like I could do it for this because it's a little bit closer to stuff I already know. And so that's literally the reason we ended up with Dragonlance, was we already owned the book, and I'm saving Humblewood for when I can take the time to really like dive in and know Humblewood. But I do eventually want to play a Humblewood campaign because those owls are fucking cute.
It's my whole aesthetic, is woodland creatures being fantasy warriors.
I love it.
I'm obsessed with it.
I used to read a book about warrior cats, so I
Did
understand.
you? Is it called Warrior Cats?
Yeah.
No, it's called Warriors.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's like 40 books long, right?
Have you read the Redwall series?
Actually, no, I haven't, but I am
them.
familiar with it. No, I'm pretty sure at this point, Warriors is like maybe 100 books at least, and now there's like Polar Bear one too. I think I don't know.
that's cool.
It's a whole
I would
thing.
read the shit out of that.
Yeah.
I love my polar bears.
I
Yeah.
actually wish we did do Humblewood because I have a character. His name's Jericho. He's a ferret rogue. That I would love to bring back.
Very good.
You've done Humblewood before?
It was a homebrew that was very similar to
okay.
Cool.
Humblewood.
Yeah, so the plan now is I think we're going to try and do Humblewood in 2025. And like we're going to make Dragonlance 2024. Probably this will probably go till at least to get through the module part, which who knows if we're starting next week, the module might be over. We might start the Humblewood campaign in 2 weeks if everybody dies.
No, but you need more time to read it. So
Well, we'll see.
No, I like Harvest.
I know, but if you all die, I don't know that we're going to re-roll a full suite of characters and go back. I don't know how we would get back to this point, right?
Yeah.
We can live through this. I have truly no doubt we can live through this. But the case is, when we get away, do we circle back round, or do we just go just get the fuck back to Burglar?
So yeah, let's talk about the campaign. So that's how we ended up with Dragonlance. I was excited. One of the things that drew me in was the concept of the adventurers having to participate in larger battles where they can't be a part of everything. Because I think in D&D, oftentimes it's impossible for adventurers to be a part of a real battle, and everyone tries to do their own siege mechanics. I think Crown of Candy came close. I really liked the final siege from that, but even that, it feels weird for you to be like, and then my platoon of soldiers all cast Gust of Wind together. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is always D&D just isn't built for it, right? There's not really the like, there's aren't mechanics for groups of soldiers fighting together. And so the idea of the fray and what WotC created for this module I thought was really fun and smart, and it was something I wanted to explore. I've really enjoyed the fray in the Battle of High Hill.
That was
that was really
fun.
cool.
It's like simplistic enough that it doesn't distract or detract from what's happening during the regular turns. It just adds like a little bit of extra, which I think is nice, because that's I think what the hard thing about siege mechanics is. It feels like it kind of almost derails everything else in a way, whereas this is just like a little bit of flavor.
Yeah.
And then so then I was like, hey babe, do you want to do this? And you said yes. Immediately. And then we reached out to be like, we have like a Discord of like content creators who do TTRPG stuff. And we are like, who's available to do this in person? And everyone was like, I can do it if it's online. And we were like, no, we want this one to be in person. And so exactly 2 people said that they were available to do this in person each week. And it was these 2 idiots.
And that's why we're chosen.
We're special.
Yeah, we definitely wanted anyone else. But we
You
accepted it.
vocalize it
Luck
every
was-
week.
It was not a skill issue;
Luck
it was
was not-
availability.
Yeah, I was available.
Well, I was grateful. I was grateful when you guys were available, just because, obviously, like with Roleplay Relay 1, I've DM'd for Claris and Rob for 90-ish hours.
Yeah.
And so that familiarity was great. And then Brian, thankfully, we got to do a couple of one-shots together with Roleplay Relay 2 and casting. No, which one were you in? You were in
The chilly,
The pre-
cold.
Creep Freeze.
Creep
Freeze.
freeze. That's it.
That was bad for. I'm sorry. I have to apologize for that one shot.
That was a great one shot.
I made it up as it went, and there's a point in the middle of that where it's straight up. I was like,
Hey, we got back onto it. There was a spider
did.
mommy.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
There was a hot
was
spider
That's
mommy.
all
sleeping
that
with
matters.
Santa Claus.
Wow.
We got there in the end.
We ended on another continent than when we began, and we were fucked.
There was so much going on to get Roleplay Relay 2 ready that I just did zero prep. and it showed.
It was
But
fun.
we got through it.
I mean, we had fun, so.
Yeah.
But then Relay 2, we made like 11 grand for charity. So like I was like, you know what, worth it.
Balanced
Yeah,
out.
worth it.
It was a
bit.
tech stream, and we figured out the tech. And so that's how you guys came on.
Yep.
And then Robin was going to be our first guest for the initial Vogler arc,
Yes.
and then now isn't. So
Oopsie.
you just happened to be available on Saturdays.
Yeah, and we had spoken one time, and then it's like, hey, do you want to join the? No, but then it was because it's like different. Like me joining is very different. It's like none of us knew each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was like,
And
oh,
yet
hey,
it
you do
feels
D&D
like we
stuff,
have-
right? I know, right?
When
Well,
you're
and, like,
your
we-
family.
Stuff. It's like I do. And
Our
it's
only conversation was rather intoxicated,
like, yeah.
which keeps
Do
happening to
all of
us.
your situations happen like this? This is not the first time.
Yeah,
You're
because
like,
Jillian on Relay 1, we had only met drunk in DC at Katsucon at the S-Class party.
and it happened during the charity one too. There was another player that was like, we met once.
Was it Fariha?
Fariha.
Yeah.
Fariha and I, so Fariha,
drunk.
Okay,
Fariha and
so-
I met on a flight to Vegas together.
That's what I
We
mean.
sat beside each
I
other.
love that.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
so cool.
And I always introduce myself to like the people beside me because I feel like it makes it easier when like one of you has to get up and pee if you've like
Yeah.
talked once.
Yeah.
And so I like introduced myself to Fariha, and she was wearing this dope Avatar shirt, like the Last Airbender, and we talked for like 5 straight hours on the flight. Got off the flight, shared an Uber to the Strip, and I was like, we have to.
was like another 99
Yeah, I was like, I'm doing this like TTRPG thing in a month. Will you come do it? She's like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
fucking go.
Yeah.
And now she's like one of my favorite people.
That's so sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
right?
fucking love that. That's dope.
Yeah, so I think that like I meet people once and I'm like, play Dungeons and Dragons with me,
Yeah.
please.
Pretty much,
I am begging. It's the only thing I want to
Because
do.
I don't all I do TTRPG stuff like I think this month I'm in like 9 different games.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And I know.
That's
I know.
it?
I know, right? Pathetic.
Win.
Those are rookie numbers. But they're all online. So when you were like, do you want to do it in person? It's like I would
Yeah.
love to do it
I
in
would
person.
kill a person.
Yeah, it makes a
And then,
difference.
and then we had our call, and I was pretty nervous for it, but then we talked about Doctor Who for the first like 40 minutes, and I was like, yeah, this is sick, actually.
You're like, all right.
I'm super in, actually. This week.
Yeah, I love that. Like I think business calls, if you try and talk business first, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's especially in content creation where you're like
It's all about a vibe as well. Not just like if you're in like a business call with someone who you're looking to hire, it's like these are the skills. But like for something like this, it matters who they are as a person.
Yeah.
well, especially with what we do. I mean, I know that the two of you aren't, don't do the like full-time content as much, but for us, like our brand is so vital to everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And who we affiliate with really, like, especially for a long-term project like this, is there's a lot of risk there, right? Like
Yeah.
if you go onto a channel now who has values that your community doesn't appreciate,
Yeah.
it can spiral into a situation that like it can be so detrimental to your whole
Doctor Who is like a great like what's the thing where you're like almost testing out the waters?
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of like controversy
Yeah.
there in certain areas, and you can be like, all right, we're gonna talk about Doctor Who and see how you feel about like these
Yeah.
kinds of things to suss out what kind of person they are.
Well,
Like,
especially coming out of the Christmas specials this year with the trans stuff and
I was
the
literally just
first Black Doctor and like there's some
and
people
so
that
if
you have
you'd been like,
conversations
Doctor Who,
online.
and you'd be like, oh, fuck that, they went woke. We'd be like, well,
Oops, the daisy. I made a mistake.
yeah.
It's happened to us before where like I don't want to name names because I don't want to like
No,
shit on
no,
anybody,
no.
but like we've collaborated with people in the past and they've either used language on our streams that I'm like, whoa, like that's really not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Or, like sexually assaulted our friends or like
Yeah.
we've kind of been through it a little bit in the people that have been around us. And it's weird now, especially because, like we produce this stuff and we've gotten to the point where we can start paying people and, we pay all of you guys. We have Brandon, our editor, who we pay. We have Victoria, who we pay for social media stuff. Like we're starting to be a boss, like where, we have employees, freelance mostly, but that also means that we fire people. And like with Relay 2, like there were like 2 people that we had to like be like, hey, we heard some shit about you, can't have you on the show. And like that's it's an uncomfortable position to be in, to be like, hey.
Because it's also weird because not only are you like a boss in situations and whatever, but you also like are are like representing a community of people, and then it's like you know, you don't know the rabbit hole that you're going to allow people to fall down that is going to be detrimental to many people. So it's like hey, listen, we can't, like, I don't want to make things with you anymore because you are falling down a space that will make some members of my audience also fall down into, and that is just like bad. Please no. But Dungeons and Dragons is cool.
It is. So we have our characters. You guys play. Rob plays Caligero Moonfire, the sorcerer, the lunar sorcerer. We have Ban and Leywind, who is a Kender from the world of Kryn. Harvest, played by Claris Polaris.
That's me.
It's your boy. And we have Teller. I'm sure that's his real name, played by Robin. Other than me telling you that I would like to have the subclasses and the society, to be fully transparent with the audience, when we started doing Dragonlance and I read through the book, and the book just has the Kender race, it has the subclasses of the Knights of Solamnia the
Sorcerers, Mages,
the Lunar Sorcerer.
Yeah.
I kind of reached out to our three original cast members and was like, hey guys, like, I would really love, if we're going to do the module, if we could have all of the things from the module represented in the characters, right? And so Brian, you chose to be the Kender race, which is a race that exists in Dragonlance. Rob took the Lunar Sorcerer subclass in the Mages of High Sorcery so that we could get that story stuff in. And then Claris is a member of the Knights of Solamnia. And so what was it like creating characters within the constraints of me asking you to bring in certain elements from the book? Kind of not prescribed, but recommended.
Was that
that's a question for the three of you. Yeah. Because Teller, you didn't really. I was like, do whatever you want. But.
I loved it actually being prescribed a bit of a structure, because normally when I jump into a D&D character, I kind of like, it's fuck around and find out for a lot of it, and then I actually. You pointed this out actually after being in a campaign with me for a year and a half, and I actually took it as a compliment, because it was formed as a compliment. Is I justify what my character sheet, spells, chart, attacks, everything looks like in the moment, and because of the character's background or roleplay based. So I find a way to justify why I'm having this spell or why I'm doing it or anything like that. So having that guideline at the beginning was actually super helpful for me, because it helped me craft, like, for example, part of the module says, did you encounter the moon somehow? Were you touched by the moon? And I was like, well, how fucking cool would it be if the moon exploded and is now embedded in my system and I am Tony Stark?
A chunk of the moon.
A chunk of the moon.
The red moon is still rising.
Exactly. The red moon rises this night. So I actually, to answer the question of like, how was it with the guidance, I think it's fantastic. I actually like, I kind of hit my stride when I'm vamping off of a collective versus trying to drill and lead and guide.
On that note, just to add to that, I think it was interesting that it forced the three of you guys to talk about your character creation before you had created anything.
Yes.
Because I didn't say, like, you're the sorcerer, you're the Kender. I was like, these are the three things that I want to appear. You guys choose who does what.
Yeah.
And so that kind of forced you to...
Yeah, so we had 2 calls about it, and we're like, who wants to do this? And why? And having something as simple as you have white moon, red moon, black moon, and what's associated with it, and what your kind of your core belief system that is correlated with that influence is really, really cool. But me being me, I was like, I'm indecisive. Red moon, balance. I was like, I don't know. And I think that's actually really cool also to discover with a character, because he was so rebellious to his father, but inspired by his mother that said, fuck the system. Like, when she'll learn a little bit later, and that's not really a spoiler, it's just more so he himself was conflicted. And so the moon that represents balance chose him. So it's so cool to be guided by that. And so building a character around that, I was like, I am so game. And I was actually very happy that you're like, choose. These are your choices. It actually helped me a lot. So I think, and I'm like a new-ish D&D player. I had this homebrew campaign that lasted a year and a half too, but that was the extent of my, outside of an occasional one-shot or anything like that.
I mean, Roleplay Relay was a very long one-shot.
No, and Roleplay Relay too, and like,
that was not a one-shot.
That was not a one-shot.
It was 173 straight hours.
It was a single session.
Yeah.
It was a one-shot.
It was a 183-hour one-shot.
Yeah, and so
73.
and so
well, 73.
Sorry,
let's not add 10 more hours to that bullshit.
Sorry, you're right.
comparatively to the community, I still feel green when it comes to D&D and TTRPGs.
Having said that,
and...
even finishing one campaign, I think, puts you ahead of most people.
True. Yeah,
I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I've played like the first 3 sessions of like 20 campaigns.
Exactly. And so and having this weird like middle ground of I've played and I've also got so much to learn. I think having the module foundation and just recommend it to any even new players, I think it's a great entry point. I think it's fantastic. So I loved this, and now that is my answer. Pop that, bitch! No,
It's interesting that you say that like you would recommend the module. I don't recommend this module for a new DM.
I didn't say this module.
But no, I mean, I think for players it's fine. I think for players it's fun. I think that like the immediate direction of everything is really easy because you can't run off and do a lot right now because you're kind of surrounded by an army.
Yeah.
You're almost trapped into the plot.
They're trapped with us.
Sure. Says
No,
the
you're off after
5,000
me.
exploding draconic monstrosities.
I thought you were going to say, says the sorcerer with 21 health.
That too. You have 21 health?
Yeah.
That's funny. Jarrett is a level lower than you, and he has more health than you.
He's literally meant to fight. He's a squire. He's beefy. Get out of here.
But this is a weird module. I think if you've never DM'd before, there's some weird shit in it.
Fair.
How are you feeling about Bannon right now?
I mean, Bannon's great. Is that the question, or is it the same question you give Rob?
Talk about what you want to talk about. I'm just curious. I'm curious about your thoughts, Brian.
So, I mean, when it comes to character creation, normally, I really get into backstory stuff and things that I think are interesting to, but things that are interesting to explore through the character, and I guess in a weird therapy way, things that I want to explore about myself through this character.
D&D's not therapy. Sorry, keep going.
It can be.
It can be. I'm just kidding.
It can be therapeutic.
I'm a licensed therapist, so this is
That's
therapy.
a lie. For legal reasons, you cannot lie about being a certified medical practitioner.
I have a degree in musical theater. That's the same thing as a psychology degree.
That's true.
Fair.
But it's kind of something that you said that I find really interesting is like...
Everything?
Yes.
That I said?
The character, I think the best characters always have to have an element of yourself. Like you were talking about this indecisiveness of yourself that then led you to things with Caligaro.
Absolutely.
And Bannon, as a character, is sort of this version of me that I want to do more of. Like this sort of like, he's always sort of happier and always looking on the bright side, always looking to give the benefit of the doubt, and always looking to like help and compliment people, which, I sometimes have like this like, I don't want to do it because I'm socially anxious. Me, of all people.
That's actually... Sorry. I was going to say interesting. Interesting.
So I really like creating Bannon in that sense. Though in the sense of the module, and we talked about this the other day, I really wanted to also pare it down backstory-wise. I wanted something that was non-impactful on the world because I'm very used to having... working in homebrews where I can create something that is very impactful, like whole organizations.
When you're like, I want something that's not impactful, and I was like, you are the first champion of a god in 350 years.
But that's part of the module. Like that's not something that we've created in a sense.
The gods are coming back. Yeah, that is definitely part of it. I think the way that we're playing it is that I'm definitely going to play that's more special than I think the module does. Just because I think it's more interesting. One of the things I learned from Baldur's Gate 3 is like just let all the characters be main characters, right? And I think that I think there's a hesitancy sometimes in D&D that players are like, oh, I don't want to have like main character syndrome, and it's like, well, but then why are you here? Like, what are we doing if you're not the main character? Why are you sitting at the table? And I think that it's more about making sure that like the main characterness is balanced, which is why, other than Teller, because you came in later, we have like some work to do to figure out how we're gonna like main character you up. There's stuff going on behind the scenes for all 3 of your characters that you guys don't know about yet, because you are the main characters of this story, and what is going to play out is going to affect the 3 of you more than regular people, because if not, like... Why are we sitting here for 4 hours every Saturday doing this, right?
I think people also mistake like supportive tactics to not being a main character. Like if I'm and once again, like you took such a support healing way, whatever, as like the support character. I'm like, no, but that's still main character, and here you are. But yeah, so and it's funny because that reflects in the homebrew that we did is I actually did not feel like a main character because he came later, and then he was very much a healer, very much a supportive. Hold on, I'm not separate. And I'm just saying no, but once again, we all are the main characters. So I'm just doubling down on that. Well, but continue with the...
I think it's interesting you bring that up because, like, sure at first, but then towards the end, you became very, very main character.
Is this the one where you were like a fallen god
the
angel
god.
thing.
The
end of that campaign got weird.
I worked for a shitty god.
Oh, okay.
I had a falling out religiously. Tempest cleric that like drew the power from the evil god, thus switched over, and then eventually created my journey to going from a resentful fuck the gods to actually dying and becoming a celestial.
Becoming a god.
And becoming a god. Yeah,
Yeah.
similar to like
Literally
the whole...
dying in my arms.
Yeah,
I wasn't
like-
the main character at all. I just went through like a whole arc and became a god.
But
normal life.
But that's also
pedestrian.
like that's also my absolute, since you're like my social anxiety, my crippling imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guarantee come into anything, still being asked to come back even if I was just available. So still to just look, I made myself available. What's that say about the rest of you guys? But
You also have a car, which
yeah,
helps.
I no. Got the people in Toronto. I have a car.
Hey, look. There's a reason we're moving to LA. Everybody has a car, and I don't have to pick people up from the mall.
There you go. Yeah.
Nerds.
Yeah. I think it's fun to do this, to also challenge parts of yourself that you want to grow as a person as well too. So I like that. So this definitely challenged my acceptance for wanting to be invited to a collective. I think it was great. You were, when you're like, I'm socially anxious, and then you have Bannon that speaks first and takes leads. Like, if you notice, he's like, what do? You're like, and I'm like, Bannon's taking charge, and I love that about it.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
I have a tendency to always play like darker characters, like characters that have like a bit more of like a
Brooding
roughness.
gay mystery.
Brooding gay mystery.
To get back to the original point, like I'm used to like having, you know, entire swaths of land destroyed because of my backstory, like uninhabitable, or a whole fucking spy organization that like interacts with the world at various intervals through the backstory. So I really wanted to make something that was non-invasive in that way. Ban's story.
So it's only his world that's been destroyed that gets in here. Yeah.
And everything else works within this world. So I really thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I will say candidly, I mean, I think I'm very privileged to have spent most of my time playing homebrews. Not everybody knows people who are just going to make a fucking world.
Run
Yeah,
a
fair.
And obsess
campaign a year
over
and
it.
a half.
And obsess over it in the sense that it takes. Like to really make a flushed out world homebrew, it requires countless hours. And I throw all of the kudos, congratulations, and the admiration towards people who will do that, yourself included, because you've made the entire world of
Felrosia.
Felrosia.
Yup.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I know what you said.
Don't worry.
What did you say?
Nothing. They're just very similar words.
Names.
What?
The Felro. Don't worry about it.
What did you say though?
I said Fenrisha.
What's Fenrisha?
It was
It's,
another campaign.
There's a world that we played in as well.
Oh, I didn't know
It was
that.
just funny because they are the cadence of them, the letters of
Oh
them.
yeah, for
was
sure.
like-
Yeah.
But
I didn't play in that campaign, so I didn't know that.
No, I know.
I wish you told me that, and I wouldn't have done it. I
No,
could have changed the
fuck
fucking
no.
name.
Absolutely not.
I'll call it Taldoris or something.
Very original. I love that.
That's very good.
So playing in a one-shot now, also my first experience with something like this, is interesting because I always kind of like thought that it would be very railroady, like, and I think
Oh, the book is.
and I think in many ways that's because you're not railroading
GM's
it.
not railroading.
I mean, I mean, we've kept most of the beats, but yeah, no, I'm like whatever.
it
Like,
would have been funny if like you were like, and the squire comes back and says, "Guys, go left." You know what I mean? Like you had the opportunity to railroad it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I want to reveal. Basically, like,
reveal it.
I haven't changed. No, about stuff that's already happened. Like, because like getting to the Battle of High Hill is a little bit railroady in that it's presented to you, but the way the book presents the Battle of High Hill, I think, is really strong. Where it's like, hey, like, Isbin wants you to do this. He's your friend. It's like this Trimarch tradition. Gorgonis attacks. The things that I changed is that like I introduced Gorgonis to you guys before, because he just like comes in the book. He just is like, and then a half ogre who's Cudgel's
his
second in
introduction?
command attacks.
Holy
and I was
shit.
like, well, it's weird if they've never met this
Yeah.
character for him to just attack them in the middle of this battle.
Yeah.
And like, how would they know that he's Gorgonis' second in command? Like,
We wouldn't feel the betrayal,
Puzzles.
actually.
yeah,
We
because
wouldn't
you're
feel
like,
any
wait,
of
what?
it.
What do you mean a half ogre is attacking us?
Yeah.
So like, I introduced him earlier, And then there's a bunch of other stuff I want to introduce sooner that's like from like chapter 5 of the module that I'm like, that's way too late.
Oh, don't stop doing that. 'Cause that was great. The Dragonlance entire encounter.
This Martin
The
Rootbill, the druid I created. Because I accidentally said that someone healed Dragonlance in the town's center. And I was like, wait, there's so few druids. It is a notable thing that there's a druid. So now I have, like, that was, I actually said cleric. In that moment, I was like, wait, no, it's not a cleric, it's a druid, because clerics don't exist. And then in my head, while you guys were talking about the next bit, I was sitting there like, fuck, I have to create this druid has to be a person now because there's so few druids.
And that's so interesting because he's like a character that we're hunting now.
Well, now he's a huge he has a character sheet. Because I was like, well, fuck, like if they fight Martin, he has a whole thing.
He got promoted real fast from non-existent to main character.
So literally the lead antagonist.
The closest thing you guys have to an antagonist right now, really, is Martin. So that was wild, and that's so fun. That's what I love about D&D. It happens so much in Roleplay Relay, right? Where it's like, oh god, fuck, I said that. There's a whole. My biggest regret with Relay 1 is Matt created this idea that there is a prison in the Bugbear Empire where the bards who are singing, because you got the night shift went to a concert which was a Bugbear band of anti-Bugbear Empire like political musicians.
Like Rise Against,
who are like the Beatles,
Bugbears.
but like making a political statement about not, and so they got arrested, and so we were gonna have a whole 12-hour session that was gonna be one of the, because we kind of blocked it out in 12-hour sessions that whole week, and we were gonna have the party have to break into the Bugbear prison to rescue the Bugbear band and all the other political prisoner musicians.
But you thought we had an extra.
But then I walked in one day. I was like, we have 3. No, I thought we had a day. I walked in on night shift at the end of the thing. I was like, so we have 3 days left, and I think it was. I think this Hercules was like, we have 2. And Matt and I were looking at each other like, no, we've been talking about the head off about 3 more days. They're like, there's only 4 more shifts. And Matt and I were like, fuck, oh no.
That's rough.
We have to like we had to cut a bunch of stuff. And cutting the Bugbear prison was like the saddest cut of that for me. Because I was like, damn it. Like,
it's a cool idea.
There's just no time to get to it. Yeah. I was so excited.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like we said, Roleplay Relay was like, shit, I said that, so I had to make it work. For me, it was 12 hours of not remembering anything. So I was like, shit, I said that? What did my character say 12 hours ago?
What did the other
exactly. What the fuck did Torque say now? Whiskey dick! Fuck!
You were so upset about that.
He wouldn't have said that, Torque!
And we were all so sleep deprived.
No, he might have.
You're like, oh, I had tea. Right, I have to go have diarrhea now.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I forgot I need to shit my pants and I hate tea.
Well, he did have to pass a kidney stone, so we can't blame Torque for too much that week.
That's true.
Because he passed a kidney stone and came back and played 12 hours later.
What a hero. Torque, you're a hero.
Clarus, you created Harvest for this. What's fun is Harvest is the one that like there's so much we can't talk about. But yet, because you're at the beginning of exploring something that you don't know, and you've kind of
some stuff like I genuinely don't know.
There's a lot of
like how to roll
Harvest. Yes, like how to roll. And Harvest's backstory is a mystery to Harvest. So
that's a 3. Yeah.
Right.
Just checking.
She's consistent.
Just checking.
What was it like creating a character where you intentionally wanted to create a character that you could meet as the campaign went on?
Well, I think we talked about the moons. That was like one of the first things we talked about.
Yeah. Becoming astrology girlies.
Yeah. We were like, what if we came up with like a whole astrology thing for this world? And like that seems like a lot of work. I'm still down, but I don't think that'll happen.
I can't imagine Harvest as an astrology girly.
No, I can't either.
Just gonna joke and say we didn't have time.
I can't imagine her memorizing things.
No, definitely not.
Like she knows ways to kill.
Well, also Harvest is very bad at public speaking, and I feel like you have to be like able to like talk people's ear off to be an astrology girly.
I imagine lycanthropes are astrology girlies. Like they have to be for their own sake.
I feel like they just have like.
But 27th day of the month, I know I'm gonna be really moody, and also that if I take risks, that my rewards will reap tenfold. Like you know.
I think they're already so dependent on the cycle of the moon that. Because this is my problem with astrology, right? Is I don't want anyone to tell me that anything about myself is predestined or pre-described by something.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you already had something related to the stars that was such an impact on your life every month and did predetermine some things about you, I think that you would like almost have a more aggressive kind of rebuke of anything else from the fucking sky telling me how I'm going to behave.
I'd be one or the other, like extreme opposites, I think.
That is interesting. Do we think our characters would be astrology people? I think Teller would be an astrology person.
Maybe.
Oh my God.
Cal
Just because it's all like
stories,
fancifuls and stories, and it's
Yeah.
like it's all fate and it's
You
interesting.
just pull a thing out of a hat and it's like, yes, today, this is your fortune, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's the thing. I think that in this world, no. Because I think that everyone would be so... Well, actually, no, the gods have been gone. Here's what's weird.
Yeah.
I think that I could see astrology having risen up after the gods left. But once the gods are back, there's enough people that can just talk to the gods to find out what today's going to be. Like, you can wheel and woe.
Yeah.
Who needs astrology when you can ask a literal god how something's going to go?
yeah.
That's true, but then it's, you know, kind of switching the conversation slightly. I'm not wearing my glasses. I almost adjusted my glasses.
I used to do that
done
until LASIK.
I used to poke myself in the eye all the time. Yeah.
Like the relationship between belief and faith and astrology, I feel are so interwoven that I believe that the gods coming back, they're like, you know, there are faces of the gods in the stars that people have made through, you know, culture and time and stuff. I believe that there would be like a relationship between Luna.
I was gonna say the mages of high sorcery, like all of them are probably like my dad.
Yeah, it's
Big
like,
astrology girly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it looks to
He's
it
a
almost,
Taurus for sure.
well,
but looks to it as law, right? Like it's just
you
part of.
wake
Yeah.
up. You wake up in the morning and you can pick what your moon cycle is.
Yeah.
It's like is that not just being like, my stars are saying that I'm going to have this rough day.
Yeah.
Therefore, you
Ray of sickness,
gain
like-
the yeah, exactly, right?
Wow, the moon
I
did
love
it.
I
I
love the
think
idea
that's an
that
interesting conversation.
like members of your order can like set off their period. If they're like, I need to do this once a month, and these 4 days are convenient. So this month it's going to be these 4 days.
How wonderful.
I can pick and choose.
I do think though, like I find what you said really, really interesting because, like, you know, if I can look up at the stars and try and like find meaning there, but I can also just go to a temple and call up a god and say, hey, what's up? You, like, how am I doing today? And they're just like, well, you could afford to be fucking nicer to people. And I'd be like, why would I find meaning in something that does not have innate meaning when there are things that I can believe in that are there?
Well,
you know what I
video
mean?
killed the radio.
Well, and
star.
it's a problem with faith in a world where gods touch the plane is like.
but then
like,
also are absent.
like one of the in this world, yes, but one of
Yeah.
the problems I always have with D&D is it's like, well, why would you only have faith in one god if
Every single
they're
one.
real?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if they're like
proven.
functionally real, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, I believe in Pelor, but I don't know if I. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
But you just saw this like priestess of Melora grow a tree in 5 seconds. Like everyone would just be like, oh yeah, gods are just people. You know what I mean? It would almost be
Yeah,
a more
they're just
casual relationship with faith.
Would it not make more sense to? Yeah, I was gonna say casual relationship with faith, and or treat them as dividing lines like countries and belief systems and
Yeah.
whatever. So if there's multiple gods, would the fickle not treat it as ways to isolate each other?
One of the things I love about campaign 2 of Critical Role is the way Matt Mercer segments the Dwendalian Empire by having there be faiths that you are allowed to practice in public there and faiths that you aren't.
Yep.
And I think that would become more like kind of the storytelling. One of the things for Relay 1 for Felrosia, because I created the Pantheon of Gods for that. And the important thing for me was that the Hellspark, the like person who ruled over the undead, was a neutral god, because I feel like they always make the like Hades is like the evil god, and it's like
yeah.
fine, like death is the most neutral thing that exists. Why is this god always inherently negative? No, the god that brings people back from the dead in like a dark way, like that is
it's what you do
that's
with
evil,
death.
right? But like the person who just watches over the dead is like the most boring god in existence.
Yep.
They just watch eternity of the souls of the people who aren't heroes.
I really like. I mean, obviously, I'm going to mention the Silmarillion here, but I
What?
like Mando.
Sorry, what's the Silmarillion?
It's the Lord of the
fish.
Rings extended.
Oh, sorry.
Basically,
Editions?
the
Oh,
The
I've seen
extended
those.
editions?
the pre-story,
watched
the
those,
prequel.
yeah.
Oh, it's the prequels. Oh, so it's like the Anakin story.
But the point being, like the way that Tolkien wrote Mandos, the god of the dead, essentially. But Mandos is the oath keeper, is the god of not just the wayward spirits of the elves, but also the one who like if the it's not the oath. Oh my god, wow. But
Do you even like Lord of the Rings?
whenever like somebody,
I'm calling Don and telling him that you forgot this.
he's like he like issues the doom of the gods. He says this is the thing. He's the reason the elves can't return to Valinor because they were doomed by their actions. And Mandos warned them at one point. He came to them and he said, if you keep going, you will not be allowed back. And he enforces, it's this whole idea of how in Lord of the Rings, oaths are so important.
Yeah.
If you swear an oath, it is binding. The whole story of the Silmarillion is based on that idea of Fëanor swears this oath and all of his children are bound to it. They cannot break it.
Is this relevant because you're a paladin with an oath?
Well, kind of, I guess.
Can you fix it for 100
What does this have to do with Ban and Leowyn?
But the point being that like it's like the idea of like this is also the god of the dead in so many ways in this world, but it has so many more. It's very neutral and it's very much like there's a power that gives speed to these oaths, strength to them, that they cannot just be broken or cast aside. Or if they are, an entire army becomes locked in the mountains and are ghosts because they broke an oath.
Yeah.
This
Like,
is going to be
power.
so interesting with you eventually, but we can't talk about that now.
The ghosts?
No oaths.
Yeah, so I kind of just Harvest came about because we talked about the moons.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, there's 3 of us. Sorry. So we'll each like pick a different moon. And I was like, what's something that, because I was like, oh, I don't want to, if you're doing like a god that has relationship to the moon, and then you're doing like the sorcerer that has relationship to the moon, like what is there in D&D that's also like linked to the moon somehow? And I was like, well, the obvious answer is a werewolf.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And we'd been talking about werewolves a lot in D&D because I bought that set of dice.
Yeah, the werewolf set of dice, and I was like,
From MissMountGaming.com.
I was like, oh,
really
like,
Use code NERDNightly15 to get 50% off your order.
I was like, it'd be fun if she was like a redhead, and it was like kind of more like brighter, and it wasn't just like this like dark scary thing. And we were just driving in the car, and I was like, oh yeah, like if I was like linked to a certain moon, and I just like the Harvest moon popped into my head, and I was like, oh, what if her name was Harvest? Like that just literally like, I was like, oh, I kind of love that. I'm just gonna take that and run with it. And I'm the kind of person that for my characters, it can take a lot of time, not a lot of time, but it definitely takes some time at the beginning of a campaign to figure out who they are, because I have a hard time like plotting out what that means without any circumstances. But then having the game play out and making those decisions in the game, I learn more about who she is by the actions of doing and responding. And so Harvest has kind of been inspired by, if you watch The Expanse, by the character of Amos, who's like morality just kind of means something different. Like there's
An incredible performance by Wes Chaffin.
Oh yeah, incredible.
If you've never seen The Expanse, it's one of the greatest TV shows ever.
Haven't. I watched the first 2 and I just stopped randomly for no reason.
When you get
so
to like
good.
season 3 and season 5 stuff is
It's
some of the
incredible.
best.
It's just the best.
It's some of the best writing for television I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Like we have one more episode in season 5, and I'm just it's like it's just masterful stuff on a level that you're like, how is this on like cable? Like this, it's not even like
how
I mean,
did
it
they
ended
pull
up
this
on
off?
Prime Video after season 3, but like Sci-Fi produced season 3, which to me, I was like, this is a joke network. We talked about it in our reaction. I was like, this is it's a sci-fi show. Like, oh my god!
know.
And then at the like halfway through season 2, I think I was
were
like,
like,
oh,
what
this might be
the
the
fuck?
greatest sci-fi series I've ever
Yeah,
watched.
we love it.
Yeah.
And so
I've heard it's very good.
yeah, so she was kind of inspired by that character, and from the place of like, me as a person have a very strong sense of like right and wrong.
What?
Yeah, I know. Shocking, I know. But that's something that I've always had, and I think I like to try and play something in each of my characters that is like almost a direct opposite
Yeah.
of who I am. And so that's like the like core of her. That's like the nugget. And then everything else is just gonna kind of expand from that.
It's gonna expand.
It's gonna expand from that.
Damn.
So then that was our main three. We had our black moon with black moon with Harvest, white moon for Bannon, red moon for Caligero. The original idea of the show is that we would have 3 people plus a guest at all times, because we wanted to have like a diverse cast of people come through. That obviously stopped pretty quickly once Teller kind of fit into the team. I think the mistake that we made, and not that it's a mistake, because I'm very grateful that you're here, but if you're going to have guests on your show, don't introduce them until like session 5. Because I think the problem with our thing is that either Teller has to die or
which was the original
stay.
Call.
Well, no, we had like we discussed you having a Boromir moment, and like we were like, oh well, he'll just get killed off and Boromir the group.
So
but
sad.
I think that by introducing you, obviously we did the preludes, but they were so short individually. Yeah. By introducing you in session 1, it's hard to like extricate you from the launch of
We
this.
just clicked.
Yeah.
It just worked.
Yeah.
And also that, I mean, incredibly grateful in a way that only Teller could put into words. But yeah, it was.
He tells some fucking story about it.
It's some fucking stupid ass story. But yeah, no, and then so Teller, to go back slightly, is interesting for me because thinking I was going to be a guest for like 3 sessions, I was like, I'm going to bring in someone whose whole point is to bring the party together and set them off on this journey. So I was like, all right, like this like essentially retired adventurer who like wrote everyone's stories, and their whole thing is essentially interviewing people. So it's like session 1, I sat everyone down. I was like, tell me about yourself. What is going on? Like tell me your backstory.
And then
why
fascinating.
fascinating. All that jazz. And Teller was originally an old character years ago that I made for a campaign that eventually stopped. But I kind of just adapted everything about them to this, and to go into personal shit. So the first time in the original campaign, I was in a crazy dark place. I had just come off of like a real breakdown, real big one, and this was the first character that I was playing back in this, this new setting. And I brought them, and they were exactly the same, had the same backstory, same story, and they were so depressed all the time. And then, when we were talking, I was like, I think I want to bring back Teller. But then, when I started playing, because we've actually had this conversation where I have said, I don't make a backstory until like session 5. Because then you know the character, you know how they fit into the world. I feel like you can write as much as you possibly want, but you will not know how they work until you're with everyone and start playing, which is exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah.
And I was lucky because I'd already played Teller, but then when I sat down, I was like, you know what? Teller's actually going to be crazy positive. The same person, but years have passed, and now they've like gotten over a lot of their shit, and their outlook is way different. And it felt. I walked home after my first session, and I was telling my best friend, I was just talking to them about this whole thing. And I was like, it's crazy to me how I have seen my outlook on life shift from then when I was like, everything is dark and fucking sucks, to now when I'm like, that did suck, but now the outlook is way more positive. So when it comes to bringing shit to characters, I'm a huge advocate for it. A lot of characters that I play, I always ask like, why this guy now? Like, why are they being played now? And then a lot of times, if I don't think of that afterwards, I'm like, that's why I was interested in that person and that story now. And I think, first guest spot is a huge like opportunity for me. I was like, oh my god, it's an in-studio game, and I haven't played
Studio. It looks better on camera than it does in person.
But like, I haven't played.
There's adjustable weights right there.
In so long, and I felt like it was like this big moment for me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that bit of my life that fucking sucks, and I'm going to bring them in and make it like a way more positive outlook. And and that was my idea for Teller, is they were either going to like die, and I was going to let that part of me go, but then it just didn't. We were like, hey, what if actually we keep telling stories? And
You might still die. Like let's be.
very much so.
Any of us have a very good chance right now.
You guys came up with this plan.
I have not been
Some
found
of us are
yet.
less likely to die than others.
Yeah.
Tyler's
of
just
us-
nowhere to be seen at the beginning of next. It's
Tyler
like,
just
he got on a horse. He's out.
Throw me a scroll of Misty stuff.
I don't have Misty Step. If I had Misty Step, I would have used it.
So basically, we still want to have guests. So the plan, we are actively working
Building a bigger table.
on. Well,
The table.
we have the table. The problem is we have to. We
need to
are
expand
currently
the set.
stretching. The cameras get to the edge of the curtains that are these backdrops we use for Relay 1 and that we are using now. So we are building, we're in the process of building a set so that we can have the bigger table on camera and that we can have more people. So the goal is eventually to be able to accommodate 3 people on either table, do 6 players. For like our Candela Obscura show in April, where it's going to be 4 players because we already have that lined up. But the goal is to eventually get this Dragonlance campaign up to be able to have 6 people. I don't think we'll have 6 people every week.
No, that'll be more of an occasional thing. But
But to be able to have people join these 4 and tell this story in Kryn on the continent of Ansalon as we kind of figure out what's going on with this invading army. One of the things I'm excited for, now that you know about the invasion and the scope of it, not really. You know about the scope of the invasion here.
We know
right?
it exists.
yeah.
Because one of the things that I really loved about the backstories that you chose and that really informed the world for me was you being a Sylvanesti elf. And I was like, well, because the book, so one of the weird things about the module, and I don't want people to think that I'm just criticizing the module. I'm just saying this is an element of the module that I, as a GM, am trying to work through, is that it lays out the war against this invasion force has been waging for the past few years, but it also wants the players to start out relatively unaware of it. And that's tough. That's tough for me because this is a world with magical sending and other ways of communication. And so, especially once you were a Sylvanesti elf whose father is in the government of Sylvanesti, Sylvanesti fell a year ago. Like the idea that you wouldn't have heard from your very magical father in the year since, or someone that you knew in the magical order of magicians that you're a part of.
Master senders. Like,
Right.
And like you guys still don't know the scope of it. There's a lot of secrets, and some of them are from the module, some of them are mine that I'm very excited about. But building that out has been a weird part of the module of this, in that I don't know how to keep some of those secrets, because it feels weird that the world would be that according to the book, 2 whole nations have fallen, and nobody knows. It's like a huge secret, but also you're in a magical order that spans the whole world. Like those are the things that I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to be like, you know that this happened. Your father told you, he sent you a spell, he's in your country, you know that this happened because the people in your country have taken in all these refugees, and we're just gonna move forward being like, we don't really know who attacked them because it was this weird army of monsters, but
it adds so much stakes because you're like, there was clear communication until then. There is nothing now. What is stopping the magic? What is stopping the people? Are they all underground somewhere, kidnapped? What's going on? So you're adding this element of like, there was that communication and now it's gone. So that's scary.
Well, you know where your father is. Your father's in Qualinesti.
I know he's in Qualinesti, but yeah.
But you haven't heard from him
There's
much.
this absence, right? Yeah. And I know there's just fucking scroll in my backpack, and
And you've met this guy who is
the
connected to a god.
chosen of the gods.
Yeah, wild.
Who I thought was insane because he's like, I'm the chosen one. I'm like, you're
Yeah, we were like,
idiot.
sure. Yeah.
He's like heals an entire pub full of people, and like I'm like, oh okay.
Well, you shouldn't be so quick to cast judgments, as Bannon would say.
I only cast spells.
I mean, that's what elves do, though. They just cast judgment.
Yeah, well, that's the high elf Sylvanesti side of me coming out, being like, you're lesser than me.
But that's also a big thing that informed my decision to make a smaller backstory. I was like, well, I can't know these things because we hadn't come across this yet at the time.
Because if all of you were aware of the war, it's like, well, then why are you then why are you doing this, right?
Yeah.
But it plays into the optimism that you do have. Yes, you want to do better, you want to do all these things, and you're optimistic about the view of the world, but you're also ignorant as fuck, which like ties into it because you're like,
I wouldn't say ignorant. I would say it's naivety, right? It's like being so full of wonder at just the world because you're so used to this world in a small
ignorance
sense.
in the sense not the stubbornness, but the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
You have no experience. So yeah, I guess naivety
But
is the polite ignorance.
That led to a really, really nice scene, I guess last week, 2 weeks ago from when this airs, but with the prisoner, of this sort of like stubbornness of this one character who's like, I've seen the world sucks, I'm in it for myself because that's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
And
the average
Ben,
adult,
who with his naivety is sort of like, no, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
And in many ways, Ben, I mean, I'll say this because I'm playing Ben, but like I'm like, Ben's right. Like, being a good person is always worth it no matter what. Yeah. And that's Ben's perspective. That is morally.
I think everybody in this room agrees with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the real world.
Yeah.
In our game, we might play, a torturer.
But this is also very true in the real world. People get jaded and they don't care as much about things that maybe they should care for, or they just don't have the time
focus
to
on the negative. They forget the day-to-day positives, right?
So in a way, it's really, really nice to play into this part of like, knowing everything doesn't make you a better person. Being smart doesn't make you a better person.
It's the choice.
It's choosing to care about people that makes you a good person. And
Well, that's what I'm excited with Harvest is like this character who has this very muted ability to make her own choices because she doesn't have great role models, being so alone. And what does that how does that character respond to being part of a group now that Caligaro's maybe a bad influence a little bit.
He rolls with it too much sometimes. He's an enabler. He is.
Which is also interesting. But I think like what impact are Teller and Bannon going to have on you as you're in the process of discovering yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to watch play out. I'm excited. Honestly, this whole campaign is. The beginning of it has been more fun than I thought. I was a little bit worried with the module that because I've only done homebrew before, I was worried that I was going to get too hung up on the fact that this isn't mine, and that that would be an impedance on my enjoyment, right? Mm-hmm. And that hasn't been the case. I think that like the dynamic that you guys bring together has really made this such a pleasure. And I'm just so excited every week for Saturdays. Like I'm sad that we're not doing it. The day that this drops, like I'm sad we don't have a session.
I know.
We had a panel that we wanted to do at this con and we didn't get it in March. And I'm like, well, okay, we'll be here and we'll play Dungeons and Dragons on the internet with our friends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So our weekends are going to be filled with this, which is awesome. But it's just weird. It's weird how much this already means to me and how much fun I'm having. Like there's things for you. I'm gonna send you a whole document about the Mages of High Sorcery.
Please, yeah.
So that you have like that whole structure, because that's stuff that isn't in the module, which I understand why, because it's a lot of work. But you're a Knight of Slamia. What is that? Like, what's the structure of that? Who do you respond to? Why are you a Knight of Slamia in an adventuring party? Like, I'm working on coming up with like the rules for you so that you know. Because Becklin kind of gave you shit last week, and I realized like she gave you shit, but you don't know what the rules are really. So I'm working on that for you. I'm working on Mages of High Sorcery for you. Like there's stuff like that I want to.
And there's guarantee. Yes, all of Sylvanesti was destroyed, but Qualinesti took in a lot of refugees and survivors. So as far as expanding backstory and involving us in the world, it's like, well, who do I know that might still be alive?
Yeah.
Are there other
your father survived.
My father's alive. Were there professors that got out? Were there love interests that got like we don't know yet, right? There's so much.
Yeah, we're
to
gonna
add.
need to.
We need to do another call. Like I think
and I think that work is going to keep on going.
Yeah, I love.
But I also don't want you guys to share everything with each other because I think that
no, just you.
I want you guys to reveal stuff in game. Like I think it's fun watching you guys reveal stuff in game. Today I think or last week for the audience, the way you brought up your scars and the stone like that. I think that story was beautiful and I thought you told it really well.
Thanks.
I'm excited.
I had fun
I'm having a great time.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't want to keep you guys all night though. I need to drive you home. I'm not taking you today. Right?
I'm taking this one.
So
sorry.
We do have to go, unfortunately. But this was a blast. I cannot wait for 2 weeks from now when we're back together. Unless you're coming for the Super Bowl. But
we are coming for the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
Are we?
Yeah. We discussed this, didn't we?
There's going to be
Sunday.
so many. I think that we're underestimating how many people are going to be here.
There's not going to be that many.
Yeah, because the 10th we're doing the event and then we're going to go here.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for this little chat. We're going to do these periodically and keep up with each other about how the campaign's going. We'll probably talk a little bit more about the campaign in the future.
So drop questions in the chat. And you know what? If you're a member of the Patreon as well, I think maybe what we can do is make a post. Be like, if you have any questions, like drop them here so that we can keep track of that post.
Right.
Yep.
I think that makes sense. Questions for also the players.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, you can go directly to Rob Russo Music on YouTube and just ask me questions there, out of context.
But make sure you click that like button.
There you go.
you have to
Like on any music videos I have, they're just like, so why Cal?
Go watch. I could have been on Broadway, or what's it called?
I could have been on Broadway.
Yeah,
Yeah, on Broadway's in brackets, but yeah, it's.
No, I would have.
I
been.
would have.
would
been.
have
It's
been
not
on
even
Broadway.
could. It's a would.
Yeah.
Could have is a stretch, but would have is definitely not true.
Which is the point of the
You know
whole
what?
thing.
Wow,
I know.
you're
I'll
such a bully.
take the stretch.
I'm the DM. That's my professional job.
bully.
Professional bully. Anyway, if you like this video, like, subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave me comments down below, because the algorithm god, she's hungry. We must feed her. That algorithm god is my wife, who needs to be fed because it's dinner time.
Yeah.
Are we going out?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us around the internet, you can. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
Rob Russo Music.
The Brian Kling.
Claris Polaris.
Captain Krail.
That's all of us. Our links are all down below if you're watching the video, or in the description of the podcast feed. If you are watching this, please consider just like going to Apple Podcasts and pressing join this channel so that you download this every week, and then just press mark as played. It'll disappear off your phone, but then we get the play, and it makes our podcast look better. Give a 5-star review. Help us out. We're trying to grow this thing because it's expensive. And
As someone who gets like one new subscriber on YouTube a week, you don't know how much that means. Like it's you are so, you impact our lives so much when you take the 30 seconds to go to that platform and do that thing. I know that sounds silly, but like beyond financial support, I know there's like charity events and like all these things like that too. Even the time of that 30 seconds, it changes your life.
Well, all this talk
So
about
thank you to
doing-
those troopers that do that.
All this talk about being a good person and doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's the right.
Go like and subscribe.
Wow, yeah.
anyway, you're also a fine person if you don't like. I don't want to
That's
put too much
totally a joke,
emotional
yeah.
pressure on you.
You're not evil.
Do it.
No, we're
Yeah.
just very thankful to those who do. That's all.
We'll be back
That's
next
all.
Saturday at 1 p.m. EST, as always, for Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen Session 5. We will eventually have a title for the show once they decide what it is.
Queers and Carps. Queers and Carps.
Yeah,
As
Queer
always,
Carps.
Phil.
are we sticking with Queer as
We're
Carps?
not, we're not, we're not.
I don't
Queer
feel
as
like that captures the vibe, and I don't know how to make a shirt of that. I want merchandising, okay?
That's a good point. We'll think about it.
Do something every night, y'all.
Bye.
See ya.